Welcome to our Need to Say podcast. This is one of our first issues of the Need to Say podcast, and we're going to begin our program today talking about the construction industry, which for so long has been a very traditionalist and maybe even conservative, we can say, but it has been changing drastically over the last couple of decades, and it's been changing for good. And a big part of this change has to do with the composition, with the people who make up the construction industry. And we're going to dive into that in today's program. So first, I want to introduce my co-host, Oscar Garcia. How are you, Oscar?
Daniel, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having another podcast. Need to Say Talks. I'm super excited.
All right. And our guest, I would like to introduce our guest. We have Ginger Sepulveda here with us. Hi, Miss Sepulveda. Ginger, we'll call you Ginger for
yes,
the podcast.
please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We asked you to be on our podcast today so that you could paint a broad picture for us and our listeners in regards to the changing construction industry, as I said, and specifically the realities of women in the industry, right? 1.3 million women working in the construction industry in the US today. That amounts to about 11% of the whole workforce. And it is a 3.5% increase from last year, right? So we're gonna dive into it. Why is this, right? Why is this changing? What are the positive aspects of this? But first, Ginger, can you give us just a little introduction of yourself?
My name is Ginger Sepulveda. I am the president of GCJ INC. My firm was established in 2008. We are a general contracting firm in California. We also are licensed in Nevada and Oregon. And we do commercial construction. We specialize in federal government work. And we're also signatory to the Northern California Carpenters Union. So we do all of our own in-house carpentry.
All right. So a really extensive and impressive CV, right? Well, the first question, what strikes out the most, I would say, the decision of choosing the career path of construction, right? Or in general, first of all, what do you think leads people to choose a career path, right? Do you think any of those reasons affect men and women differently into the career path they choose?
So for myself, I'm actually a third generation general contractor. So for me, it was family ties. As my husband tells me all the time, construction is just in my blood. And in some respects, he's right. My dad, who is also a general contractor, he didn't not involve me in construction when I was little because I was a girl. I had a boy Cabbage Patch doll, and he had a tool belt, and I was out there with my dad on the weekends helping. And if I got in trouble when I was older, I was in the field sweeping. And so I was never treated any differently as a girl growing up. And so I think that was kind of my first entrance into the construction world. I never thought I was going to go into construction. I was always drawn to business and worked at a bank for a really long time, got my business degree. But as many women do, I ended up having my first son, and I really wanted to work somewhere where they would work with my schedule and I could be a really involved parent. And of course, my dad's construction company was the perfect place for me to do that. So I started working for him, and it just really happened naturally. I worked for him for quite a while, and eventually he said, "You are way too smart to be working for anybody else. You need to start your own construction company. There are so many benefits to being a woman in construction and that he can't take advantage of." And so he kind of shoved me out of the door, and I blindly just was like, sure, I have a business degree. Starting the business was the easy part for me. It was, running it became a challenge in of itself, but it just kind of happened naturally. And I happened to be at an event yesterday for women in construction. I was seated with some actual carpenter apprentice women, and I asked them. I said, "How did you get into this?" And they all kind of said the same thing. "Oh, my cousin, or my father." So I think a lot of it is you just kind of grow up around it, and you don't really realize how many people are in the trade. But my brother is a carpenter. Cousins are either carpenters or electricians, and so in some respects, I think it's just something that a lot of us just kind of grew into.
What an amazing story, Ginger, and I mean, really one of a kind, because there are not many, business owners that can say, "Oh, my dad was in the construction industry."
Mhm.
Typically, where it's the you're doing it for the first time, or you didn't have that previous experience. And so this right now, this is the Women's History Month, and it's also Women in Construction Week. So it's a really important, I guess, month, and also time for women in construction. They're having right now this really key role in so many different aspects. You were saying that you met these women at this event yesterday, and you talked to them on how they got into construction. What do you see moving forward? What do you think, what are some of the challenges they're facing right now? And what do you see, how do you see women 5 years from now, for instance?
So for the challenges, I would say the biggest obstacle is we're pretty much universally underestimated. Um, you know, a man walks into a meeting or onto a job site, and the other men on the site, they grant him immediate respect, and they assume that he has all of these capacities, which he may or may not even have. As a woman, you walk onto the job site or you attend a meeting, and you're kind of assumed to be maybe a secretary, or you're just learning or you're training, and you're not out there with the same knowledge and skills as everybody else. So it's really difficult to go out there and maintain your confidence and be able to kind of hold your own. It can be discouraging at times, and for myself, when I first started my company, I had built relationships with certain other subcontractors and clients that I had worked with when I was working for my father's company. And so when I started my company, I thought, oh, I'm going to call so-and-so. I've worked with them tons of times. Well, then when I'm calling them under GCJ to work, asking them to bid a project for me, all of a sudden, they're not returning my phone call. They don't have time to bid my project. And so it was, I was a little taken aback because I didn't expect that. I thought, I've already shown these people that I know what I'm doing. Why are they not responding to me? And so sometimes I would call my dad and I would say, "Dad, so and so, they're not working with me." And luckily he had my back, and he would call them and be like, "My daughter, she's she knows just as much as I do. Give her a chance."
Yes.
But on the flip side, there were many other subcontractors that were more than willing to give me a chance. With they have faith in me, and so that was nice, but it was rare. I literally remember those. Those are like my favorites, because I'm like, you have been with me and had faith in me since day one. But I think as more women enter the field, we'll be able to show these other contractors, subcontractors, clients that not only can we do it just as well, in some respects we're going to be doing it better. And because I think a lot of the things that might be seen as shortcomings is maybe they feel like, for a tradeswoman, maybe she can't lift as much, or she's not going to be able to work as long of hours because she has a family. Well, those things are going to work in our favor in my mind, because we're going to work smarter. And
Yeah.
maybe I can't lift 75 pounds, but I'm going to find a tool, or I'm going to lift it and do the work in a different way, and I'm still going to get it done, and I might get it done faster, I might get it done better. And you never underestimate a woman, because then she'll
Yes.
just go above and beyond to prove you wrong.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our world, I mean, it could be so much better if we let more women to work, not just in the construction industry, but also in other industries, because there's so much potential, so much, power in so many aspects, and that we can really, the entire world can take advantage of. But because of those, I guess, stereotypes and things like that, that we're not letting them do the work that, like you said, you guys can do it way better, right? And I completely agree with that. I think everybody who's married and thinks about this, it will be like, yeah, I agree with that, right? So it's really interesting. So I wanted to ask you this. So, there is this organizations, in the US, there, AGC, ABC, they're this union, organization. What is the role those organizations have in, helping more women, I guess, not just with training, but more of with general contractors to say, no, they do have that potential. Do you have any experience, with any of these organizations helping you, grow as a, not just grow as a company, but also as a woman in construction, helping you, get, kind of open the path and be like, yes, let's make a connection, not just, because you are a woman, we're not going to let you do that. We want to help. So is that happening right now with those organizations?
Oh, it definitely is. There actually is a huge shift in prioritizing women in construction, and I definitely see kind of women taking over in some respects. The Northern California Carpenters Union, one of our local field reps is a woman, and as a woman, she really works hard to encourage other women to be out in the field as tradeswomen. And she was the one that invited me to the Women in Construction event that I went to yesterday with our local builders exchange. And our Northern California apprenticeship union just in 2022 had their first all-woman apprentice graduate cohort, and they're hosting 2 events this year, 2 networking events for women in construction to network with general contractors for upcoming positions. So I know our carpenters union is really promoting women in construction, and it's really, really great to see. And for agencies like AGC, they are hosting events all the time for women in small business. And when you go like to the California AGC in particular, and you look at their board and who is leading it, there is quite a few women on there. It's really, really encouraging.
It's really great to hear that, because I remember that there was one time, it was probably a couple of years ago, I was at a construction site, and I saw these women working, and the majority of them were Hispanic. And so I went there, I started chatting with them, and they said, oh, we're having a really hard time right now because we're experiencing this, sexual harassment, and so we don't know what to do, and kind of things like that. And one of the I guess their biggest challenge was that they don't speak English, they don't speak the language, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, like, I think we need to do something about this, right? But what would you recommend to a woman who's like, okay, I'm gonna get this job in construction, it's gonna be a better salary, I'm going to be, much better than working at a fast food restaurant or things like that. What would you recommend to them? What would it be your advice?
Say, probably my biggest piece of advice is just to be confident in yourself. Like, don't let how people are treating you make you feel like you don't belong there. And really, with that confidence, don't let them put you in a position, like as a tradeswoman, I feel like if I went out and was like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be a carpenter and I'm going to work in the field, I feel like what would they do? They'd give me a broom and they'd have me cleaning up the job site. They're not going to say, hey, go frame up that wall, or why don't you help with this concrete pour? They're going to be like, oh, make sure our job site's nice and clean, or hey, can you run to the hardware store? We need this, that, and the other. And so I think making sure that we don't fall into those stereotypical woman positions is really important. We need to go in there with confidence, knowing that we can do the job, and really demanding that they give us the opportunities to do that.
I love that. Love that. Love that. Because I agree, and they have to speak up, right? You really have to ask questions and be like, hey, I can also do this or that, right? So be confident, like you said. Love it. Daniel, I'm going to turn it back to you so you can ask the next question.
Yeah, it's really interesting, especially seeing so many women in leadership positions in the construction industry, right? And I was wondering, because it is Women's Month, right? The world is changing. Is the mindset in the construction industry changing among the workers out in the field? Would you be able to notice that so far, or is that something that seems that it's coming in the future?
I think that we're moving towards that. I think that in general, the industry is more open to women in construction, but then there's still just so many of those, and they really are values that are being instilled in men. And it's, you hold the door for a woman, don't speak in a certain way in front of a woman. And those things are still happening, but they can make us feel out of place. I'll be on a job site and maybe, everybody is having a conversation and it starts to maybe get people start saying bad words, and then they look at me and they apologize. And I'm like, I might speak a little worse than you, you don't need to apologize to me. I'm in construction. If I didn't have a thick skin, I wouldn't be out here. And so there are still things like that happen that remind a woman that you're not on the same playing field as everybody, because they are still treating you a little bit differently. And so I think I look forward to the day where I'm not a woman in construction. I'm just in construction. I'm just a coworker. I'm a peer. I'm, a boss, and not a woman boss or a woman peer. But at the same time, I also see a lot of people embracing women in construction. What I find from a lot of the people that I work with is I'm really upfront about what I know and what I don't know. And so a lot of times, if I'm involved with something and I'm not totally confident in my knowledge of what's going on, as a woman, and this is different, because men will have a hard time saying this, I'll say, hey, you know what, can you explain that to me? I'm not really sure, how all of this fits together. And everyone, men and women in general, are really receptive to things like that. And they end up almost becoming instructors and mentors to me and to other women when you're able to really be upfront about those types of things. So I see us really just moving towards women becoming more and more equal in the field, but we're not quite there yet.
Right. So work in progress. Right.
Yeah. Speaking of that, because maybe it is something that women are bringing to the construction industry, because it is mentioned, rightly so, right, recently, that machismo, having the tough guy mentality, that affects guys, right? It affects men because it puts them in danger, it puts them at risk, right? And it's like a culture that is there, right? And maybe the only way, or not the only way, but a great way of changing that is diversifying the field, right? And having output opinions, or as you said, just the way that you are carrying yourself or behaving on the field is like, oh wait, we can do things differently, right? We can question certain things, or maybe I'm not all powerful, right? So it is a great aspect. Now the question just stuck in my mind because you were talking about how you started in your family's company, but then you stayed there, right? What is it that you liked about construction?
I like doing something different every day. When I worked at the bank before I moved into construction, it was a lot of the same. I was a teller, I was a supervisor, but I'm processing transactions. I'm dealing with the same types of things, opening accounts. It's pretty mundane. And so then coming into construction, you are always having a new project, and then not just that, but you actually see results. So at the end of a project, you can go out there and you can be like, wow, I had a part in building this. I might not have been out there building it, but I took this, piece of land and built a building on it. Or I took this old, ugly, building and made it beautiful again. And it's just so satisfying to do that. And it's just so exciting. And also I really like to learn, and I don't really like to just kind of stay in one type of spot. And so things are always changing in construction, whether it be innovation or new codes and compliance requirements, better ways to do things, safer ways to do things. It's just always changing. And I just really love that.
Yeah, it seems like it's growing and it's expanding, and the thought behind construction, really putting or thinking about what is being done and how to do it. It seems to me that it is changing and it is really upgrading, right? And a lot of those changes, have to do, as we said, with the people that are out there in the field, right? Women being one of them, Hispanic workers being another really important amount of workforce that is going into it, right? So not just, this question is not just, as a woman in construction, but as a general contractor, right, with your own company. How do you see the Hispanic workforce in construction?
I think that the Hispanic workforce it's growing, and it's long overdue. And to me, it was inevitable. I mean, as a Latina, growing up, and when you are Hispanic, you are hardworking, you are motivated, you are driven, and so we're going to take over the world one day. So one trade at a time, one industry at a time, and especially being in the union, I love seeing more Hispanic members, because you're getting fair wages, you're getting really amazing benefits, and you're going to safe work sites where the employees are the priority, not completing the project on time or under budget. It's making sure your employees are really well taken care of. And so I think that the Latino community in construction is just going to continue to grow and flourish. And I don't know if it happens subconsciously, but our particular company has a lot of Latin employees, and it just kind of happened organically. But I think that's how it's happening across the board. It's organic, and it was inevitable. It's not something that was contrived or anyone was trying to do. It just, especially here where I'm at in California, it's just something that happened really naturally.
Organic and inevitable. That's true. It's California, it's Alabama, it's Chicago, it's New York, it's Texas. Wherever you go, the workforce, the majority of the workforce, it's Latino, right? It's Hispanic. Now, you talked about employment, so we know that the construction industry is the biggest industry in the US. And during the pandemic, it was deemed as an essential business. You guys never stopped. So everybody was at home. You guys were working, right? Tell us about that experience. How was that?
Oh man, that was really crazy. So we are heavily embedded in the federal government work, and so um, we did shut down for 1 week, and that was weird. We made that decision. Our job sites weren't actually shut down, but it was like, you know what, let's have everybody stay home. We paid everybody for the week. We didn't know what was going on, and we were like, let's just take a week and figure out what's going on. If we're going to keep working, how are we going to keep everybody safe and healthy? And so I, packed up all my stuff, and I worked from home every single day, and with my kids right there in school, right next to me. So I was part of my youngest kindergarten class, because he was in kindergarten. I'm right behind him. His whole class could see me working, and we took the 1 week off, and then we went right back to work. And our guys, I could not thank them more, because it was really scary, and I think one of the things that's different for a woman in any profession is that you're kind of always, when you're a mom anyways, you're kind of always a mom. And so I kind of feel like that about my employees. Like, so I worry about them. Yes. And if anything ever happened, I would personally feel so guilty. And so we just did everything that we could. I became an expert in all things COVID, because I personally took on the responsibility of everybody, and I wanted to make sure we did everything totally possible to make sure that they were safe. So they were out there every day. They were wearing their masks all the time. We bought every sanitizer we could find, because of course it was really hard to find sanitizer and gloves and masks, but we found them. We got them to our guys. They were checking temperatures every single day for everybody that walked onto their job site. We were tracking everyone that came in and out of a job site, so that we could do close contact tracing if we needed to. And it worked. We kept crew sizes small. We didn't sometimes you tend to stack trades, and you'll have a bunch of guys in a small area trying to get as much done as possible. We really extended our schedules out to make sure that everyone could keep, the social distancing as much as possible. And we really got lucky, because we did not have any outbreaks. We did have a couple instances where I'd find out later that somebody was on our job site and that they had COVID. And so we had to, call people and say, you have to stay home for 14 days, and they would have to stay home. But we just worked really, really closely with our clients and our employees and our subcontractors. Yes. And that's construction. Everything is a team effort. Nothing can get done with one contractor. It's the client, it's the contractor, it's the it's subcontractors, it's the crews on site, it's the office staff, and really we just, like we do to complete a job, we just came together to make sure everyone was safe.
So great to hear that, because most people, they thought about hospitals and places like that were essential business, but not a lot of people talked about or thought about the construction industry, construction companies, because they really never stopped. So I really wanted to ask you that question. Now my next question is this. So we have right now a lot of Latino, Hispanic students going to college, that this is great. Unfortunately, we also hear that many of them, after completing their 4-year careers or things like that, are not getting those jobs. I guess the salary they wanted, the opportunities they were looking for. And so not a lot of them, and especially universities, they never talk about construction. They never talk about that you can have a career in construction. What would you say to someone, to a student, and specifically a Hispanic student who is thinking, okay, I don't know what to do right now. I do want to, go to college or go to a community college, but I'm not really sure. What would you say to them that they have never, someone, that has never thought about construction? What would you say to them?
I would say, that's a really hard, that's a really hard question. I would say just learn as much as you can. And to be honest, I would say try and get as much experience as you can too. And I have my degree. I went to college, but I don't necessarily look at a resume and prioritize someone that has a degree over someone that doesn't. I guess I'm a little old school in the experience to me is like the best teacher ever. And so I guess that would be my advice. Go to school, but try and get as much experience as you can too. Even if it's while you're going to school, you have a side job working in construction, working out in the field, because that's experience that I never had, like actually building things that I wish I did sometimes. Like I wish I did know the trials and tribulations of what these guys go through out in the field, of having to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning to get to your job site.
Yes.
And I think that those lessons are really, really important for the younger generations. Not that I'm that old, but I sound old now. But just knowing how good we have it when we are going to college and then going into these great office jobs as project engineers and project managers, like there are those those other positions that don't have those benefits. And so I think it helps the graduates too, because they graduate and they have this great degree and they worked really hard for it and they deserve it and they earned it. But you can't just go out and make this great pay without paying your dues. And so I think realizing that you have all these other people out here paying their dues will allow them to go into job interviews with maybe a little bit more of an open mind. Like, yeah, maybe this isn't the pay that I thought I was going to walk in with, but I'm going to walk in with this pay. And you know what? I know that I have the capacity and the capability that I'm going to get to that pay scale that I expect and that I deserve, in 5 years or 3 years.
Yes, I love it. I feel that, there are two different messages here. I feel that on the one hand, you can say to someone getting a 4-year degree in construction management, for instance, that, you have to learn, these trade workers, all the, like you said, trials and tribulations, all the work they do, understand them, see all this, different aspects of their work, right? And then on the other hand, it could also be to students and be like, yeah, while you're going to college, you can also go and learn, become a welder or become a carpenter, learn a trade and see, how that job it's done, that it's going to help you later, as you continue with your education, right?
Yeah, I think there's an appreciation for like the non-monetary benefits of some of these jobs that is kind of lacking in people when they go and they look for a job. They don't realize that there's a lot of benefits, not maybe you're not commuting 2 hours each way to your job site. You're working indoors instead of outside in the snow and the rain. And so, yeah, so I think having that experience is just really invaluable.
I agree.
Yeah. So there is this whole opportunity, right, for non-traditional construction workers to come in the field, and that's really great. And it's really great to see it changing. Now, to finish our podcast today, Ginger, would you be comfortable with taking rapid fire questions? Just a few.
Ooh, okay, let's do it.
All right. Well, first of all, favorite food?
Pizza.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Favorite type of building?
Oh, geez, I'm going to go random and say a bathroom because it's functional.
All right. If you didn't work in construction, what would you do?
I always thought I was going to be a fashion designer, but I'm not creative at all. So I don't know why I thought I could do that.
Maybe later some fashion PPE, right? Could be.
There you go.
Myths about women in construction.
We're not strong enough, and we just can't hang.
All right. Advice for women starting out, maybe students or maybe women just applying for a position in construction.
Be confident. Don't listen to anybody if they tell you you can't do it, and just keep trying and keep putting yourself out there.
All right. That's great. Great stuff. Okay. This has been a very informative conversation. We are grateful for having leaders in construction with us in our podcast, right? You are a representative of the new face of the construction industry, and we thank you for giving us your time, and we're really glad we had you, right? Oscar, any last words?
Yes. No, Ginger, thank you so much. Please tell us where can you be found? Tell us about your company, where you're located. We're going to share your social media information. We're going to share your contact information so that other, because this is to the entire construction world, right? So we want them to know about your company. Tell us about your company. Where can you be found?
Okay, so GCJ Inc., we are in Northern California. Our website is www.gcjinc.com. My email is ginger@gcjinc.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Our company is on LinkedIn. And if you're in the federal arena, you can find us on all of the SAM and SBA websites with all of our certifications.
So there you go. You can find her and her awesome company with, we're going to share that with our audience as well. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your time. And it was an awesome conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, this was the Need2Say podcast, Need2Say, and I will see you. We'll catch you in the next one. All right.
Awesome.